What's going on, guys? This is Drew with Sobriety Daily, and I was kind of just thinking about what should we kind of tackle here today. And one of the big questions that you always get is, how do I quit drinking alcohol? So one of the best things that I love about this question is this is kind of the same for everything. Like, how do I get in shape? How do I stop, eating bad food? How do I stop reacting too fast? So one of the big questions that I think a lot of people don't think they really need to ask is, what do you mean by I? So a lot of times people think that I feel or I think, therefore I am, which really isn't accurate at all. Because if you were everything that you felt at any given moment, we would be no different than, say, just like a standard animal. And that's okay if that's what you believe. Personally, I believe that as a human, we are all kind of spiritual beings. And so I believe that there is this kind of connection with a higher power, that we need to have this kind of sense of meaning in our lives. So what do you mean by I? That feeling when you first quit drinking, like the first week when you quit drinking is incredibly hard, right? And mostly it's because you have all these sugar cravings, like just a crazy amount of sugar cravings. I remember on my third day of sobriety, I called my sponsor. I said, "Hey man, I'm like angry and I'm just really intense." And he just told me over the phone, he said, "Well, sounds like you need to eat a couple of cookies and have a Coke and just kind of like chill out." So I went and had a couple cookies, had a Coke, and my wife goes, "Wow, you really kind of picked that one up." And it was true, because the I that was me in that moment was just a latent sugar craving. So there's all these kind of gut flora or gut bacteria that can make you feel all these different ways. And of course, we have all kinds of different hormones, right? Serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, endorphins. Inside your gut, you have leptin and ghrelin. You have so many different kind of hormones in your body, and each one of them has an actual target that it aims for. So if we are the sum total of our cravings, that can't be correct. So how do I quit drinking alcohol, right? So this is the I that's tired of waking up when you have a hangover, right? You have a hangover and you wake up and you're like, "Oh man, how do I quit drinking alcohol?" Or like, "Man, I totally blew up on my girlfriend or boyfriend last night. How do I quit drinking alcohol?" Or, "Man, you know what? I was 3 hours late to picking up my kids after school. How do I quit drinking alcohol?" There's all these different people inside of you that are all going to be saying, "How do I quit drinking alcohol?" Now, of course, there is the addictive I as well. And that I is not anywhere near ready to surrender. And it's not ready to give it up yet. So you can't just say, "Oh, well, how do I want to align all of my I's?" So you've got all these different cravings and desires and hopes and dreams. And then, of course, we have the hungry, angry, lonely, tired side of us, right? And those are totally different set of I's. And when you're hungry, I want to eat. When I'm angry, it's I want to resolve the situation in the way that I think is best. And so all of these different I's, what we have to figure out then is, if we had a unified I, like if there was actually just like an I that was what's the most coherent form of I? Okay. So the most coherent form of I, that's like where you just have your set of values. And those values are what you surrender to. Now there's one way of thinking that I really like, which is just that as you organize those values, those values are going to kind of dictate how we're going to live our day today. And that's what should happen. So nobody wakes up and says, "My highest value today is to get a DUI," right? But if we're prioritizing finding time to drink today, then we are saying that a DUI is worth it, that it is a higher value, or the consequence is okay. And so what we want to look at is how do we surrender, and how do we create a hierarchy of values that we can submit to? So the question isn't, how do I quit drinking, or how do I quit drinking alcohol? The question is how do I start living? how do I live without alcohol? I think one of the most difficult things about not drinking is not having this kind of magic escape button. I remember, like, for me, it was like, man, 11 a.m. on a Tuesday, and boom, you just hit the magic escape button, and now you just don't have to deal with it quite as much. And so that's what we want to like really look at. So what I want to encourage you to look at is say, okay, what are my highest values? You know, what are the things that if I was to allow each one of my eyes to speak, how would they get organized? You know, for me personally, my highest value is to surrender. And that's because in my mind, I know that it's not okay for me to give in to any one of my drives. So if my first priority is surrender, what that gives me is a gap between when I start a stimulus. So something happens to me, and then I'm going to have a reaction or a response to that thing. And so the longer I can hold surrender, the better my response to that stimulus will be. So personally, surrender is my top value. So my next value that I have that is the most important thing to me is to try to be grateful, or to try to have a lot of gratitude. And what I have found is that in the presence of gratitude, I cannot hold on to resentment and gratitude at the same time, right? So resentment is this idea of one of my kind of like God sponsors or whatever said that resentment is in the Spanish or the Latin, it's a resentir, which means to re-feel. So sentir is to feel, resentir is to re-feel. So when you experience gratitude, you're intentionally re-feeling a pleasant moment. When you feel resentment, you are re-feeling a negative moment. And of course, the mind thinks that it's experiencing all these things at the same time. And so you kind of have to pick a direction that you're going in. You know, are you going to re-feel those negative feelings, or are you going to re-feel the positive feelings through gratitude? So for me, surrender. Surrender helps to give a gap of time to be able to hopefully be able to make a good decision. During that time, if I can access some sort of gratitude, that will help me to look at my feelings correctly. And then thirdly, the one that I find that goes right in line with this is curiosity. So if I can figure out a way to be open, because curiosity kind of keeps us open to what's going on. So watch how this plays out. So I'm at the grocery store, and somebody cuts in line, or does something that bothers me, right? My first reaction, of course, is going to be like, hey, dude, like, what's up, man? Like, come on. Or if I can get a gap, that gap's going to give me a little bit of surrender time, a little bit of window to really think. And then I might think, you know what? I'm just really grateful to be here at the grocery store, that I was able to get here because maybe I wasn't in jail today. Or maybe it's because, oh my goodness, I still have a driver's license and I was actually able to drive here today. You talk to those people who haven't had their license in like 8 years, they're thrilled to be driving 55 down the freeway, right? So maybe I start thinking about all these different reasons that I'm grateful to be here. Maybe I'm grateful that I'm, keeping on with my diet, and I'm grateful for the stuff that's in my shopping cart. And the next thing I might think about is, I might start getting curious about that guy. Maybe he was in a rush. Maybe he's having a hard day. And then I might think, you know what? Maybe there's something I could do for this person. So by surrendering, we create some space. After we've created some space, then we sit down and then we go, okay, what can I be thankful for me? How can I clean up my side of the street? Just be thankful for what's going on right now. And then thirdly, how can I get curious about this person's life, or what I can learn from them, or how are they going to be doing? Or maybe is there something you could do that's actually nice, that actually might benefit their day? And so all of these things, now, instead of seeing this person and then like getting upset and getting irritated and then thinking about how something else irritates you, these are the things that make you in the end say, hey, you know what? Screw this. I just want to hit the escape button. Boom. Next thing you know, you're out. So the question is not how do I quit drinking alcohol? The question is actually, how do I organize my values in a way that helps me to start living in a way that's awesome? Anyways, hey guys, it's 2021, and I hope that you guys are having a great year. I know it's had like 4 days, and I know that we're having a tough time in our nation, but that's okay. So, at the end of the day, what we got to do is just surrender. Be grateful and get curious. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please give it a like. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you again real soon. You take care. Bye now.